Namun Young has just been reunited with her husband, Cha Sung Jae. Cha Sung Jae tells her that all of his shady actions were to protect her and their daughter. And he clears up a lot of things. He says that Ma Gong forced him to do all of those shady things, including acquiring debt for the law firm and what he might have done to Wang Tae Soo. He also tells her that Mr. Doe was actually trying to blackmail him and tried to pew pew him first. He describes trying to help Wang Tae-soo get to the hospital. Ma Gong called him and threatened to hurt his family if he didn't bring Wang Tae-soo to him instead. Unfortunately, that was the last time he saw Wang Tae-soo, and he knows that Wang Tae-soo was terminated from the earth. He was so scared and shameful after knowing what happened to Wang Tae-soo that he felt it would be better to just pretend to be gone. The reason his mother knows about all of these things is because he had to call her for help with childcare while he handled things. He felt too much shame at the actions he'd taken, and he just felt like it was too late to start over. So he wants to keep things as they are and just pretend to be Wang Tae-soo for the rest of his life. This sounds absolutely wild to me. I don't know if you've ever thought that your best option in life would be to just pretend you'd exited the earth and be another person, especially when you have a spouse and a child. I mean, I understand what it's like to want to run away. I want to run away every day. Okay, you know what? I take it back. I guess I do understand it. Almost every week, I think about running away and changing my name and being a new person. But you know what I've always known? Wherever you go, there you are is the truth. So Cha Sung Jae is thinking the way I think sometimes. And he says he's not going to turn himself in. He's not going to go back to his old life, but he has something for Namun Young that might help her get Ma Gong off of her back. He gives her a USB drive that contains a dash cam footage showing what really happened the day that the employee suspect allegedly hit the man with that car. As you might have expected, the person who actually hit that man was Ma Gong. Ma Gong tries to coerce the employee into taking the blame and tells her that if she does, they'll drop those embezzlement charges against her. So it sounds like she was actually embezzling. Okay. She doesn't seem so convinced, so he calls Cha Sung Jae, and Cha Sung Jae is able to convince her. Cha Sung Jae then decides to get Mr. Doe involved in all of this and tell Mr. Doe that if he testifies that he actually saw that man jump out in front of the car, then he'll help him find something he's looking for. Ma Gong does something very weird and very creepy and shows Cha Sung Jae that he's swallowing the USB drive containing the dash cam footage. Cha Sung Jae is rightfully weirded out, so he finds the owner of a car parked nearby, then he pays that person to give him the dash cam footage so he can keep it handy just in case. Namun Young believes this story, but still urges Cha Sung Jae to turn himself in and tells him that she thought about it and she can't live without him. She loves him and she wants them to face justice together. But Cha Sung Jae refuses. He tells her to just pretend she never saw him and to care for their daughter and that he has to go. Namun Young is like stuck on the floor. Despite being devastated, she decides to try and just live as if this didn't happen. Unfortunately, she can't because Ma Gong is calling her and threatening her again. He even has his bodyguard come to her house and tell her little girl that in 4 days, she's never going to see her mom again. Obviously, that's the last straw, and she decides to sue Ma Gong for everything. He's laughing and thinking this is just a big joke, especially when he sees that the damages she listed is 7 million won. But she tells him that even if she has to keep suing him again and again and again because she doesn't get that full amount, she'll just keep doing it until she pays him back the money he's claiming she owes him when she had nothing to do with her husband's deeds. Ma Gong is still laughing it up at trial until she plays the video that was on the USB drive Cha Sung Jae gave her. The court is, of course, gasping. Ma Gong's lawyer is saying that this was not discussed in evidence and that this should not be admitted by the court. Then all of a sudden, the prosecutor comes through the courtroom with an arrest warrant and arrests Ma Gong, and they haul him off to jail for hitting that guy with his car. We find out that the company refused to pay Ma Gong's bail and he's going to be in jail. Wrong. That mean, beautiful, problematic man was terminated in jail, and clearly someone was paid to do it. Nam Moon Young is shocked, so she tells Cha Sung Jae to just turn himself in and that he doesn't have to live as someone else anymore because Ma Gong, the person who was forcing him to do all these things, is no more. Well, surprise, surprise, Cha Sung Jae tells her that's not going to happen. He finds out that Nam Moon Young called the policia. She called the police on him, and you can see in his face that he's shocked and he feels betrayed. I understand why she did it, but I feel like, we need to be honest. Calling the police on him was the final act in their relationship. The next day, Nam Moon Young shows up at the police station and tries to talk to Cha Sung Jae. She's telling him, I know you're really mad at me. This is going to be the best thing for us, I promise. And he goes off. He tells her, I gave you multiple chances to live a good life without me. I gave you money. I let you set yourself up as the head of a law firm. I made sure that our daughter was safe. And I gave you the opportunity to just live with our daughter, keep her safe. And I even helped you get rid of the only person who was harassing you so that you could live peacefully. And this is how you betray me. And then he says, now there's nothing between us. She's shocked, so she just gets up to give him his space and decides to go back to the house. That night, she goes over to her parent-in-laws to update them on everything, but Cha Sung Jae has gotten out on bail and he beat her to it. She begs his parents to help her convince him to just come forward and wipe the slate clean. Per usual, her delusional mother-in-law is being horrible, and her father-in-law is showing his true colors by simply stating that Cha Sung Jae coming forward wouldn't be good for him, his reputation, and his chances at running for public office one day. Just then, Mr. Do arrives and tells Nam Moon Young, I told you they wouldn't believe you. Nam Moon Young is looking shocked and just still really confused. So Mr. Do lifts up his shirt to show the pew pew scar, and the horrible mother-in-law says, but how do we know that's my son? How do we know he did it? How do we know you didn't just get into some fight on your own? And then Cha Sung Jae says, are you really going to take the side of this Terminator? And we learn that the termination Cha Sung Jae is referring to was actually the result of a high school fight that Mr. Do got into with one of his friends. He ended up pushing his friend. His friend hit their head against concrete, and unfortunately, that was it. So it was obviously an accident, and Cha Sung Jae is only bringing this up to make Mr. Do seem like the shady one. Well, that really doesn't work. So Cha Sung Jae decides, well, better fight. He lunges for Mr. Do. They are knucking and bucking. They are slipping and sliding. During all this chaos, Nam Moon Young receives a text message that contains a video of Cha Sung Jae and his mother forcing Wang Tae-soo to drink. Nam Moon Young immediately shows this to everyone. Cha Sung Jae's mom freezes and tries to run out of the room. Cha Sung Jae storms out of the house. Cha Sung Jae's dad is shocked. Nam Moon Young tries to follow Cha Sung Jae, but he gets in his car before she can talk to him. He's driving with the purpose as if he knows exactly who sent that video to Nam Moon Young. And it turns out he does. Are you ready for this? Get ready for the final boss. Cha Sung Jae is driving back to the home he lived in with Nam Moon Young. But the door he walks up to is that sweet, cheery neighbor. That's right, the neighbor who has been taking care of Nam Moon Young's daughter whenever she needs help, making little treats and cupcakes for everybody, and offering to help. She's the one who sent that video. While Cha Sung Jae and the neighbor are staring at each other, we flash back to Ma Gong in prison, meeting with Mr. Do, and it turns out that he snapped his fingers in Nam Moon Young's face and told her to wake up for more than one reason. He was not only talking about the money, he was talking about the fact that her husband started an affair and decided to move his mistress across the street. She's also living with some rando man who I'll tell you about later. After their staring contest, Cha Sung Jae is furious and is about to grab the neighbor when she tells him that they should just go to their secret spot and talk there. They arrive at the spot, and Cha Sung Jae is so confused and so furious that he doesn't even notice he's being followed by Nam Moon Young, who is tracking his car. Nam Moon Young pulls up a few minutes after Cha Sung Jae and the neighbor enter their secret spot. And what do we see? They are having a little makeout session. Cha Sung-jae is into it, but while they're making out, the neighbor opens her eyes, sees Nam Moon-young, and continues to make eye contact while making out with Nam Moon-young's husband. Just when we think that this has to be the lowest point for Nam Moon-young, she goes back to her car, puts it in drive, and rams through the house, through the glass windows that she was peering through. This actually surprises that shameless neighbor and her terrible husband. She then gets a golf club and starts whacking her husband. The neighbor is watching this as if she's an audience member living for the drama, as if she is not the drama. It's so bizarre. She's just smirking it up, smirking her life away. Nam Moon-young doesn't understand why Cha Sung-jae wouldn't just divorce her if he didn't want to be with her anymore, and that's a valid question. Well, Cha Sung-jae is back on his delusions of victimhood because he tells her that he has nothing to say to her. He tells her, "You call the police on me, and you're the reason I'm in this situation. I just wanted to live a quiet life as Wang Tae-soo, and you're the one who forced me out in the open." Nam Moon-young doesn't know that he has been messing around with this neighbor for a year, so she can't immediately call out that obvious lie. Instead, she brings up their daughter, and he has nothing to say. So she takes off her wedding ring, throws it on the floor, gets back in the car, and reverses to leave. And this man has the nerve to pick the ring off the floor and throw it at the windshield. We don't have time to get into the psychology of this man, so let's just move on. She's finally accepting that her marriage is over, her husband is a monster, and her neighbor clearly hates her for some reason. Cha Sung-jae goes back to the police station, and now he has a new story. He says Ma Gong forced him to kidnap Wang Tae-soo, and he only gave Wang Tae-soo alcohol because Wang Tae-soo was already tipsy, and he thought, hey, it'll be easier to transport him. The detective openly laughs in his face, but Cha Sung-jae correctly points out that they don't have anything that proves he's the one who terminated Wang Tae-soo. All they can get him on is putting alcohol down Wang Tae-soo's throat, but he's explained it. And, maybe they can get him on trying to impersonate Wang Tae-soo, but that was all an accident, So we cut to Nam Moon-young confronting her neighbor to ask what her problem is. This neighbor won't tell her and just tells her, "Keep watching." Then she gives her this creepy smile and calmly walks back inside of her house. The person she's looking at inside of her house is that random man. The random man is actually the founder of that big corporation, but due to many health issues, he's just given day-to-day control to his son. Similar to many people in power throughout history, this man refuses to truly step aside or give up shares of the company. So his son is doing the work without actual control. The neighbor figured out this dynamic and wriggles her way into the life of the old man and the son, pretending to care for the old man who's the founder, while keeping the son who's doing everything, under the belief that she's gonna work with him to slowly drain the father's shares and give them to the son. Then that way the son will just tell the father, "Yeah, you didn't know, but you'd been getting things injected into you that would make you essentially fall asleep, and we just took the shares. Prove it." Unfortunately, the son doesn't know that this neighbor is a wild person, and her plan is to actually steal money from both of them. If she weren't such a creepazoid, I'd stan her. She decides what she's actually gonna do is take out those shares, give them to the son, whatever, but then also take out the money from those shares little by little so that they don't notice. And then she and Cha Sung-jae are gonna flee to Germany and just live a quiet life. We learned that Nam Moon-young has been keeping something from us. It's true that she hadn't seen her dad since he disappeared that night, but it's a lie that she doesn't know what happened to him. Turns out, her dad terminated his best friend and assumed his identity so that he could escape his debts and problems. Nam Moon-young, as a child, had to go and identify the body of the person found at the bottom of the mountain where her father did what he did. She realized then that it wasn't her father, but she didn't know what else to do. And she thought that she heard her father tell her to just live as if he was gone. So she did just that. She was just a kid, and I understand it. But what do you think? Tell me in the comments. Do you think that she should have fixed this later in life and admitted what she did? Or do you get it? The neighbor thinks that she should have come forward, and we find out Namun Young's dad's best friend is the neighbor's dad. And the neighbor was the same age as Namun Young when her father also went missing that night. She tries to tell her that it was so traumatic for her dad to be the only person she had and then have him leave one day and just never return. She lived her life thinking that her dad had abandoned her because he didn't love her. And when she finally got enough money and connections to find the person with her dad's name, she looks into his face and realizes that's not her dad. She gets the man to tell her everything that happened, and that's how she learned the true story. That's also how she learned about Namun Young and learned that she's living this perfect life with a husband and a beautiful child and is a respected attorney. But to the neighbor, she's the person who made it so that she had to live her whole life thinking that her dad just left one day and never came back. And obviously that was trauma and gave her a lot of issues. Namun Young does try to give her a sincere apology, but the neighbor refuses and tells her that she wants Namun Young to feel the same pain she felt. She basically admits that she tricked Namun Young's husband and doesn't even care about him. She's just doing this to do it, and then says that the next target is her daughter. Up until that time, Namun Young was really contrite, but that snapped her out of it. She decides to make a plan of her own. So she finds her father and convinces him to confess to a different crime while she'll admit what she did as a child. That way, the neighbor will have nothing to hold over her head. They won't have to explain to the court this whole mess of him assuming his best friend's identity and then getting caught by the neighbor. It'll just be that Namun Young identified the wrong person. She apologizes, she'll take her consequence, and her father will confess to terminating a different person so that he's gonna take his consequences. Well, that's still not good enough. The neighbor is furious and starts screaming. While the neighbor is screaming, the judge is looking at her like, what? But she storms out of the courtroom. The neighbor then goes and takes her frustrations out on Cha Sung-jae, but he's just as selfish with her as he is with Namun Young. So this results in them basically turning on each other and getting sloppy. And that proves to be their undoing. Cha Sung-jae makes it to Germany, but the banks have already been alerted and they refuse to give him the money he deposited in accounts over there. The neighbor is also arrested. Cha Sung-jae, he ends up getting chased by those debt collectors' henchmen, and they beat him until he's probably terminated. The neighbor is sent to prison for her multiple crimes. But while she's in prison, she has no expression on her face, and it's clear that she stopped truly living a very long time ago. Namun Young, Mr. Do, and her daughter walk together, reflecting on how much has happened in about a month, and smiling knowing that they get to start fresh and honestly in their next chapter. And that's the end of our story. So what did you think? I felt that the neighbor was a really good example of how being unable to move through things can end up hurting us. It was actually really sad to see how much pain she was in as a child, and then to see her finally get to put up a headstone for her father and just cry. I obviously understood her pain, but disagreed with her choice to remedy her pain by just causing pain in another person. I think Mr. Do is another great example of someone who had trouble moving on. He spent many years feeling guilty for what was clearly an accident, and it stopped him from doing the things he'd wanted to do in his life. Another core theme of this show was generations repeating patterns. For example, Cha Sung-jae's dad frequently prioritized himself and his reputation over the family, while his mom was super selfish. We then see how selfish and self-centered Cha Sung-jae is, but it didn't appear that way at first because of how involved he was in his daughter's life and how supportive of a husband he was. It's not only until later in the story that we see that Cha Sung-jae didn't do those things purely out of love for Namun Young. He did those things because in his mind, that's just what a good husband does. I feel like his daughter might have been the only person he truly loved, and everyone else was just convenient to him. Who knows why he stayed in Namun Young's life for as long as he did, but it might have been to make himself feel like the savior that she viewed him as. It felt good. Maybe that was it. Because we now see that despite all of that love he seemed to have shown her and how supportive he was of her, he was almost playing a part. And once that part was no longer convenient or useful to him, he dropped it. He never once looked like he felt guilty or bad for what he'd done to Namun Young. The only person he seemed to show an interest in maintaining a connection to was Baum. And someone could argue that that's just because she's his child, and a lot of people see their children as extensions of themselves. So even then, it's not really about the child. Overall, I really enjoyed this show. It was kind of difficult to explain, all of the backstory, and I was trying to explain all the convoluted corporate stuff behind the scenes so that you would understand why people were taking the actions they were taking against other people. But I think in future videos, I might cut some of that stuff and just try to keep it to the relationships because, ultimately that's what we're here for. And ultimately that's the piece I'm the most interested in. Look out for my next video. I'm going to keep doing this. My next video will be a little bit different. I'm going to do highlights from Penthouse. If you liked this video or you want to get a notification when my Penthouse video arrives, like and subscribe. Bye.